Okay. Hello, everybody.
Hello. All righty then. So we're going to start right in on the list. The first one is you chose this path of judgment to get back to your path of choosing. Judgment diminishes your power of choosing to the point you feel the loss of that power. Once you appreciate what you've lost, you step back on the path of regaining what you've lost, the power of choice. Judgment flattens your field of choice to what has already been tried and accepted, and bars the path to unprecedented, undiscovered treasure of the new. True choice supersedes judgment by stepping outside the bounds of accepted policy. Without the restriction of judgment, your freedom of choice unveils the true you to you and shows the world who you really are beyond the cloak of judgment.
Yeah, that kind of fits what we've talked about of not caring. You know, you almost have to not care.
I've been saying that for a long time. I said, in order to love something and really care for something, you pretty much almost have to act like you don't care so that you release any ultimatums or pressure on that person or thing to operate freely without your judgment.
And to be who it or they are.
Right.
Right, and then choosing instead of and choosing to love the person for who they are or move on if you can't love them for who they are and allow them to be happy being who they are, and not try to change them into what you need them to be.
Right, and that's what that first item is about getting back to choice. It's hard to have choice when you have judgment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Judgment is the hammer of someone else's policy. We were born into someone else's interpretation and application of right and wrong, for which we call judgment. The hammer of this judgment instills fear and governs much of our thought, choices, and actions. This policy subordinates our own internal powers of governance, relegating us to followers of an external set of directives that are open to persuasion from those who wish to rule. The issue with this is that those best suited to rule over others know that electing the rule of others is the first step in subordinating oneself and therefore choose not to be elected. They know the ones seeking the power to rule over others have yet to master that power from within themselves. These same power seekers then dig holes in society that only their kind can fill. Their policy then passes its judgment to hammer us with their need.
There's a lot in that one.
Yeah, that's about enforcement.
Yeah, about punishment versus,
It's about enforcing someone else's policy of right and wrong. We all, each inside us, have our own, sense of right and wrong. But we were born into this system of someone else's right and wrong. So a lot of places it matches ours, but a lot of places it doesn't.
Right.
And we don't really have a whole lot of say in it. We think we do in this government and it's elected and all that, but the people that are best suited to actually be our representatives don't run to be elected because they know that power, that the power to rule over others is absolutely the thing that they know is the worst enemy of an individual.
Right.
So
yeah, interesting.
the next one is bypassing judgment to a decision of sovereignty.
This can kind of be read two
Yeah, you
ways.
think about that one. Bypassing judgment to a decision of sovereignty. Ultimately, we chose to immerse ourselves in judgment to shine the light on our realization that we are not better off by judging or being judged. Judgment is the finger pointing of deficiency. Deficiency is the perspective of lacking, with the focus of what isn't wanted or needed. If judgment were to pass judgment on itself, it would find itself lacking, a solution looking for a problem.
Mm.
Judgment highlights the lack of self-control, with a solution of exporting that control to others. Unfortunately, that control is to the detriment of the perpetrator's own self-control through the reliance on further exportation of control and judgment, which leads to further finger-pointing. Fear of judgment is more akin to torture than a positive reinforcement for self-control.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the majority of crimes are committed not because the perpetrators are bad, but due to reinforcement to do so, through a reliance on external control and a system that relies on fear of judgment. Wouldn't we be better off with a system that positively reinforces self-control and strives to empower us all with the responsibility and freedom of sovereignty? If only we could persuade those with self-control to shine the light on this decision.
Yeah, because it with the outside forces, giving your control over to the outside forces doesn't encourage that internal growth of governance of your own actions and being totally responsible for your own actions.
Right.
It gives it to the outside, and then it's all about not getting caught, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like I've worked on many project teams throughout my career.
Mm-hmm.
If you never lead a project team,
Mm-hmm.
what are you really learning? If you never lead it,
Mm-hmm.
you don't even get to find out whether or not you would be good at it,
Right.
or would you be a good leader for others
Mm-hmm.
if you don't even try to lead?
Mm-hmm.
So what are you relying on? You're reliant on someone else leading.
Yes.
This is
Saying lead yourself.
synonymous with this.
Yeah.
If your self-control is reliant on an external control,
Mm-hmm.
then it isn't your self-control kind of in a bad position
Absolutely.
to where it always feel like it has a safety net. In fact, we begin to rely on that external control, telling you what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
And that might not be so bad if the system of judgment was free of corruption,
Mm-hmm.
but we know it's not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the people most likely to want to have that power over others are not the people we would first choose, or second, or third.
Well, it reminds me a bit too of like if you're doing something and you know somebody's going to be checking you or checking your work, you're not going to take the care if you know the buck stops with you. You know, if somebody else is going to be checking you. So if somebody else is going to judge you, you know, your work or whatever you do past what you're doing, you're going to take less focus on choosing, do I do this or do I do this?
Well, then you're doing it according to what you think they're going to pass judgment on to
Right.
you. That you're
Not
doing
what's
it to
inside
pass their judgment, not to do the best job you think should be done if the buck stops with you.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Interesting.
All right. The next one is standing in judgment all the world's a stage. In the coming days of judgment, the system of justice takes the stand, not to prosecute us, but in defense of its actions against us. It may, in fact, not know this, but instead perceives a call to order against another.
Mm.
Upon the stage, in the court of public scrutiny, we will unveil a reversal of fortunes. To believe this, the eyes of the public must first see the contempt for which certain wielders of judgment view us and their own system of justice. Reading the minds of society's hole diggers won't be necessary, yet their own crimes against humanity will be on full display. Truth will find its seekers, and you will bear witness to the grandstanding of judgment. Although we deserve their day in court, we must see beyond our own wielding of the hammer and pass judgment for the self-control of sovereignty.
Yeah. Yeah, because otherwise, if we take the judgment hammer, we're just going to flip and perpetuate the same.
Yes. Many don't know this, but there's a trial, not just of the century, but of lifetimes in the making. Many people believe that one man is under trial, but in fact, our system of justice is actually under trial.
Yeah, whole system.
And that is what's getting ready to come out.
Yeah.
And this isn't by decree by any one person. This is by, I would say, universe's decree.
Yeah, it's the collective. Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. I think some people can probably see beyond my words and know what I'm referring to. But I'll leave it to people to do their own observations and see what they see.
Well, and it's on every level, right? So I can think of many examples of different things where that could apply. So it's like at the big, like global, country, local, personal, it's inside yourself. I mean, that applies to every level in there because we all judge ourselves. We judge each other. That's so pondering on that through different lenses too. There's many facets of that. Yeah.
Judgment.
If you can quit judging yourself, then you quit judging outward. But it starts with us. And the people who judge the most outward are typically the most judgmental of themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Judgment is under judgment.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. Awakening your better judgment. Judgment will stand trial, and we will be the final judges. With hammer in hand, will we use it in vengeance and destruction, or apply it in better judgment towards construction? With the demolition of our enforced system of judgment, we are still left with our own, or in some eyes, God's judgment. Let me make sure I just get it. Yep. Okay, so I just left off, or in some eyes, God's judgment. Yet, judge not lest ye be judged, implores me to leave you to your higher calling, while I internally explore my own. Removing me from your judgment and your idea of God's judgment on me, I'm free to seek an awakening perspective on all that is unfolding, which I will share with any who do the same without judgment. This leaves me in final judgment, as was meant to be, of my own. And with that, I intend to live beyond that better judgment.
Yeah. I could feel the energy of freedom in that. You know, that's what I felt flow through me, was like that energy of freedom for whatever reason.
Yeah, I just time warped. Man, I just time warped.
Wow.
Okay, so let me read this last item. My pledge of allegiance.
Mm.
I pledge an endeavor to never pass judgment on you or anyone save me. I pledge to hold myself up high as an example to you to do the same.
Mm.
I pledge to seek your approval before I give to or take away from you, be it tangible material or intangible ideas. I pledge a vigilance of awareness upon me, my actors of intent, and the energies that flow through me. I pledge to lift any veil of secrecy that hides my true intent.
Mm.
I pledge to a higher calling of peace, discovery, and all the tenets of highest sovereignty. With love and intent, I do hereby pledge allegiance to the highest good of one and all.
Mm. Yeah, that was nice.
All right, so that's what I originally wrote my pledge.
Wow.
This is my poetic pledge of allegiance. Okay?
Yeah, I'm still bathing in the last one.
All right. Well, it's kind of the same sense, okay? But this is my poetic version.
Okay.
I pledge to endeavor to never pass judgment on you or anyone under this testament. I pledge to hold myself up high as example for you to live by. I pledge to obtain permission before adding or taking from your position. I pledge a vigilance of awareness upon my actor's bent and the energies that flow through me under my consent, and to lift any veil of secrecy that hides my true intent. I pledge to a higher calling of peace and discovery, and to all the tenets of the purest sovereignty. With love and intent, I do hereby promise to pledge allegiance to our alliance.
Mm. Yeah. That was good.
That was really, really good.
Yeah. And that pledge can be,
So you can,
yeah, wow.
so one's my pledge of allegiance and one's my poetic pledge of allegiance. So they roughly are the same energy.
Yeah, they are that. Yeah. There's a very genuine, authentic, non-distorted, clear. It just feels really good.
Yeah, I did that free of conviction,
Yeah.
with conviction.
Yes. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yes. I believe energies are flowing in to us now to awaken our awareness of the waters we've been bathing in.
Yeah.
Water in and of itself is not bad, but what is in that water?
Mm-hmm.
We were born in these waters of others,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't mean to put it down.
Right.
We had to go through it. We had to see it. We had to feel it.
Well, we chose it. Yeah.
We chose
to
it. We had, but
experience
we
it.
had to feel it. We had to know it so we can speak on it and use that as a stepping stone to what we truly want, not what is handed down to us.
Well, and what keeps coming for me as you look at the pledge is true showing and demonstration of love. It is that love of holding yourself to a high standard and, pledging to be clear and to, uncover any hidden intents. And I mean, that is true. That is truly love.
Well, I did this.
It makes me feel like love, like I'm bursting after just hearing it, like almost my smile feels like it wants to pop off my face. Like it feels just good and huge and like I don't know, I can't even explain it. It's just beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did this as an example before I would ever ask anyone else to do it.
Mm-hmm.
How could I ask someone before I'm willing to do it?
Right.
I have no place to ask someone to do it. And now that I've made this pledge, I can't unmake it,
Mm-hmm.
nor would I want to, but now I plan to live by that,
Mm-hmm.
by that pledge. I'm not going to be perfect with it,
Mm-hmm.
but I intend
Mm-hmm.
to catch myself and pause when I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I would ask of anyone else in don't try for perfection, but catch yourself when you're not in energies that you feel that don't resonate with how you intend to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
It's now time for showing.
Mm-hmm.
We can talk about it all we want.
Mm-hmm.
We can keep talking that helps spread the energy and whatnot. But I believe now those that have learned internal control and have wished to remain behind the scenes and not be elected, it's time not to be elected, but to come out and speak on these topics.
Mm-hmm. And to demonstrate what we've been talking about, to actually walk it in front of people. And
right. So I put the challenge out to those to come speak on these topics.
Mm-hmm.
Shine the light
Mm-hmm.
on not where we've been, but where we're going.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what we need to get there.
Mm-hmm. What do we want to create? What's our intention and what do we want to create?
Yes. Are you living in destruction energy or construction energy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We all have a hammer.
Yeah. Yeah.
How are you going to use it?
That's a good one.
Yeah. Hmm.
Well, that's part of that one that I said.
The judgment, hammer of judgment.
The hammer, we all have a hammer of judgment. With hammer in hand, will we use it in vengeance and destruction or apply it in better judgment towards construction?
Mm-hmm.
That's part of awakening your better judgment.
Yeah.
It's no one telling you what to do. I don't want to tell anyone what to do. Because that's another form of control.
Mm-hmm.
To me, we've had control in our society as far as we can remember.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't had anything but control, external control.
Mm-hmm.
And so without being able to fully exercise our own internal governance and decision making, freedom of choice,
freely,
and living with our own intent and exercising our own internal control, who are we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just
well, we're who we are now due to others' control.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's time to come out from beneath that and spread your wings and shine your light.
Yeah, when you think about it too, that really, that's where we've stifled in our expansion, evolution, and creativity. Yeah, because we were within a structure of, policies and rules and laws, and that kept us kind of either preoccupied with making sure that we hit all those, or kept us capped in because going out beyond that was too much for the the system that was there. So the creativity, that approach that you've discussed, unlocks completely the creativity of us to be different and to bring in new life. And
Right, but that's antithetical to judgment.
Yes.
Judgment says it's based on precedence.
Yeah.
What is precedence? What's already been tried and proved. Now your behavior, or since then, our behavior, their control, applying their control to us, has been to shuffle us into this approved policy of precedence.
Yeah.
Well, the unprecedented treasures of creativity are not in there. That's already been done.
Right. Yeah.
So getting rid of judgment is how we begin to unlock all that. But it's hard to do because our whole system is infused with judgment all the way down to the individual.
Well, our system internally is infused with it because it triggers our fear and our, anxiety and all, because of the way we've lived in that for a long time. So everything is that's where we go into deprogramming. It's kind of like breaking out of that, is all the way down to what's your initial reaction to it and how do you feel about that, and questioning it.
Yeah.
There's a great book, Gabby Bernstein, Judgment Detox, and she teaches tapping to stop judging yourself. When you start to feel those feelings, you start doing tapping exercises on your face and things. It's a pretty interesting way.
Yeah, because you have to break the cycle somehow. And you were saying earlier, Jenny, it starts, inside of us. We've got to break that, that cycle.
Yes.
It comes up now.
I know. I got a reboot notice. This one to reboot this computer.
I was like, what are they looking at, right?
Even her computer is judging her. And stipulating, you must reboot.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my gosh, I always thought that was funny. Yeah.
Okay, well.
Yeah, so now I believe we're entering a moment of now where we each start standing on our own 2 feet, even in ignorance.
Yeah.
Because in order to get beyond ignorance, you have to stand in that light of ignorance. But the ego...
I'm so good at doing that.
But it's the ego that enforces that.
Yeah.
It enforces us to not want to withstand others' judgment of us in looking like we're ignorant.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But what is ignorance? I talked to you about this. What is ignorance? What is the root word of ignorance? Ignore.
Yeah.
You ignore what's out there. And that is what ignorance is. Doesn't mean you're stupid. It just means ignorance and stupidity are not the same thing.
No. No.
I believe that an unveiling of knowledge is underway.
Yes.
To those who open themselves to it and are able to push aside their ego that blocks it.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because many people have talked about, I don't know how I knew that. I did this and I did this and I did this. I don't even know how I do that. I don't know where I learned it or whatnot. It's like it just came online. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
That is indeed what is happening. And it's going to grow bigger and bigger and bigger. And some of us are becoming the lighted signposts for the coming waves of awakening individuals to go, hey, what's going on? Why is this happening? Why is that happening? What do you think of this? What do you think of this? And as my pledge says, I will neither take nor give anything from your position without your permission.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it is your truth. Yeah.
So without your permission, I would rather look ignorant, than to pass judgment on you and to impose my will, my intent, and what I think of and my truth on you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because I mean that again is those old energies. If you operate differently than that, you're operating in those old energies. Even if you can't or you think you're doing, more positive things, you're still using that old energy.
Well, how many of us go through our day and every time you interact with someone, you have this other internal conversation about, am I doing what's right for that person? Am I taking away or am I giving? And am I doing it in keeping with their highest good?
Right. Yeah, I would say.
Are you in self mode and just in the taking?
Yeah, what do I need? Kind of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, or what do I need them to do? Or, yeah.
Well, I believe that internal dialogue is going to get louder and louder and louder.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I believe that's what's happening.
I can say it's gotten louder for me. I don't do it 100%, but I definitely see it more often than not, and checking in.
Well, I told her that we've lived, and I'm not saying everyone's like this, but predominantly what I hear and feel, we live with this underwriting impetus that when we hear something, we've got to do something.
Right.
We got to do something. We got to fight.
Take care of it.
We got to take care. We got to do something.
Right.
I feel my underlying premise has changed to, instead of feeling like I have to do something, to pause and consider more.
Yes.
Right.
Assume that I'm ignorant of some things that in the moment I could easily blow past and not take into consideration.
Yes.
And that pause, and the moment of pause, allows me to open my senses beyond the 4 or 5 that we have, and gather in more knowings.
Well, we've talked about, when you go into a situation, you only see it from like somebody asks a witness, what did you see of that situation? There's going to be 10 different stories if there's 10 different people. And that pause allows you to kind of like open that and get more information from a variety of different perspectives. If you don't, you're going to be only focused on what your perspective is and what your judgments are about it and conclusions are about it. So.
Right. And if we are a race of people that's all we do is look at it from a singular perspective, then how are we ever to ascend our race to elevated status beyond a level 1?
Yeah.
Where, I mean, it's time to outgrow war. It's time to outgrow persecution. It's time to outgrow anything that limits us.
Entitlement.
Yes, that perspective of deficiency. It's time to move beyond that. How do we do that? Well, we have to shine the light on what's being done to us, what we signed up for, and then evaluate it against other options.
Yeah.
And I'm all for other people expressing their opinions on what else we can do. And let's have these open conversations and get more and more people talking about it.
Yeah.
And I think through that, we can get a better picture.
Yeah, because the dialogue around these things, it's exploration more than it is finding the right answer, or, is yours right or mine right? It is that open-hearted dialogue is where you can really create stuff together.
Yeah.
And that's what we've lost, in positioning and fighting and warring, and, you stop the dialogue.
I'm done being a hunter of finish lines.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And focusing more on what happens in the travel.
Yeah.
I love the ability to just be in the now, just not worry about anything. That's definitely a gift that I've given myself to learn how to do that, because I just don't care. I don't care what happened. A lot of times I don't care what's going on. I'm just, this moment right now is good. And, then what can I manifest positive for my life, or, just whatever. And just staying in that mindset all the time.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people would think that stopping, almost like you don't care about anything that goes on out there is selfish. But in reality, it's the beginning of awakening. It's the realizing who you are and throwing off all the judgments and all the lines of fear about of the things that are external to you, and start looking internally for, what are you made of? Why are you here? What are you doing?
Yeah.
And then you start to use that as a stepping stone to, how am I impacting other people? Is that the message? Is that the light I wish to shine? Or are there other options? It's taking more responsibility through freedom of choice, not because you have to, but because, hey, where does that go? If I'm not taking responsibility, but anything other than just myself, okay, I might improve my lot, but then what?
Yeah, exactly. Where's the community in that?
Yes.
Well, and I think about, I posted the other day a quote, and I can't remember who it was from, but it's having a new meaning for me now in this conversation. But it was like, if you take your mask off, it helps it make it easier for others to take their mask off. And what it came through for me right now was, we always hear, put your mask on first before assisting others. But that's a kind of a survival thing. And this is a take your mask off and allow yourself to glow and be, and then others will be encouraged. Don't wait for other people to take their mask off, and then you say, oh, well, now I can take my mask off. It's like, you can be the first one to take your mask off.
Right.
In every way that manifests in your life, and let people see that this is possible, because then their paradigm may shift, or their perspective may change, and they may see where they're stifling themselves with those inner judgments. Yeah.
It's rising above the energies of survival.
Yes.
Yep.
And saying, there is more. I know there's more to this. So I want to open myself up to that.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that I'm gonna take someone else's control and allow them to control me. It means I'm going to see what else is out there and make my own choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because as I started this whole thing, you chose this path of judgment to get back to your path of choosing. We immersed ourselves in these things
Mm-hmm.
to figure out that we don't need them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But ultimately, it goes back to your choice.
Mhm.
What's determining your choice? What pressures? What fears?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things that we need to address before we get to freedom of choice. Do you really have freedom of choice if your selection of your choices of freedom are determined somewhat by external forces?
Right. Yeah. Well, and there's a little clue word for me is anytime I feel like I should do something that's not coming from me.
Right.
So that's a key for me. That's a clue to say that's not coming from inside me. If I feel like I should do it, because I want to do it. If
Yep.
that's not being tainted by some other force.
Well, going internally, you start to realize the waters you're swimming in.
Mm-hmm.
You start to take true readings of it and how it's impacting you.
Mm-hmm.
That's going internally and realizing who and what you are and what you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only then that you can begin to really awaken to the conditions you're in.
Yeah.
And then, and only then, can you begin to look for other options.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think too, part of that, what's coming up for me now is, not waiting so we've talked about external forces judging, but it's also not waiting for external forces to feed you either. So it's like going places in your mind or what would feed your spirit and give you that happiness or that bliss in that moment. If you feel yourself depleted, don't think it needs to be somebody else or some other thing. So it's both ways. It's like tending completely to yourself,
Right.
and abdicating that responsibility, whether it's governing your choices and your behavior, or whether it's something that your soul needs and you need to be fed.
Well, then now we're getting into sovereignty.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
What is sovereignty?
Mm-hmm.
Sovereignty doesn't mean you can't aid others and others
No.
can't aid you.
No.
Sovereignty, though, says your responsibility is to you first, to
Mm-hmm.
take care of your own needs and
Mm-hmm.
wants and the repercussions of you pursuing them.
Mm-hmm.
That is,
Yes.
that energy has to be addressed first before you go outward.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing I typically work on is my own vibration. You know what I mean? Or basically my own vibration. And then once I work on that, then everything else flows from that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I protect most of all. That's the only thing I work on, really, honestly.
Yeah, that, and along with your directed intent is where manifestations come from. So you're going to bring in things that match your vibration. And if you don't have a focused intent, your manifestations are going to be haphazard.
Yes.
It's not going to be what you want, what you really want, because you're not clear with that intent. So it is very much that cleansing of your own and tending to your own vibrations, which is the feeling of the filling, FILLING, filling of your cup yourself, and then making sure that you're doing your housekeeping on your own energy fields.
Yes.
And then choosing your intent, not being manipulated by others' intents, but your true heart, soul-centered intent.
Like that feeling of should, if we make plans a lot of times, I think, and if we feel like we should, but we don't want to, we're probably not supposed to, because if we don't, it causes like this karmic thing to happen so that everybody has to deal with whatever that is, that because we decided we didn't want to go. So if we do what we should do, it fucks with everybody's karma. Excuse my French.
Well, there it goes. It's all gone downhill from here. I see should as a demand for you to compromise.
Mm-hmm.
That's the
Ultimatum.
same energy, same light.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I don't see should as the way I used to, because should used to be a strong driver for me to color within the lines.
Mm-hmm.
And now,
duty-driven person.
right.
Mhm.
And now I'm realizing, okay, that served me back then based
Mhm.
on my level of ignorance. Now my level of ignorance has changed.
Mhm.
And that doesn't seem to be serving me. Certainly not in my highest good.
Mhm.
Right.
And I'm awakening to a better perspective of my highest good.
Mhm.
And it's not the way I saw it before.
Mhm.
It's not to collect things.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's to find balance in giving and taking, and I'm not saying it's 50-50.
Right.
Balance doesn't mean 50-50 of anything.
Mm-mm.
Balance means you find a refuge for yourself
Mhm.
within the chaos of above and the chaos below that we talked about in the last
Mhm.
video. And I'm saying that everyone's balance point that they thought that they had before is they're all being moved.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so more and more people are going to feel that chaos,
Mhm.
and they are in search of a new balance
Mhm.
point. And some are going to move in exactly the opposite direction that they should use
Yeah.
or should be following until they figure it out, because it's no one's place to tell them which direction to go. You can do it, but then you will accrue the karma associated with that.
Mhm.
So now it's time to honor your sovereignty of give and take.
Mhm. Yeah, and it, when you said that, it made me think too that they may need to go that way to learn their
Right.
lesson. So
We
there's
did.
no right or wrong. I mean,
We did with
everybody.
Judgment.
Yeah, and it's just allowing people to do what it is that they feel is the right thing to do, and goes back to without for your permission, I'm not going to take anything from your perspective, your pledge earlier.
Yeah.
Because it's their journey, it's each individual's journey, and
But how many of us
love
feel?
them anyway.
But how many of us feel like we have the right to tell people things?
Yeah, I
Tell
used to
them
really feel it.
to give them our opinion, and you shouldn't do that, or you should do that, or you need to do this, or you need to do that.
Yeah.
What if we all came to realization that does no one any good, and to turn that energy around and just apply it to yourself?
Yeah,
That'd be amazing.
it would be.
Because the best thing, I feel the best thing for anyone is for them to understand that they are perfect exactly the way they are right in that moment. And that's once you marinate in that emotion and in that feeling, everything starts to open up for you.
Mm-hmm.
Once you realize you're perfect just as you are.
Yep.
Nothing needs to change unless you want to.
It's like John Lennon's song, "Imagine all the people living for today."
Yes.
Yeah.
Not tomorrow, not yesterday. It's funny, they also had a song called Yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
So imagine a world where people no longer had the option to rely on an external control.
Mm-hmm.
It was brought down, and now it's on you. Well, there will be a lot of people that are going to struggle because they've relied on friends, family, coworkers, whatever. Well, they can't get better if they keep relying on that control.
Yeah.
It may not be pretty, and it may actually look like torture itself, but in fact, it's saying it's time to learn how to swim.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Without those arm floaties.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Interesting. I was thinking about energy in that regard too, because we often use each other to either get energy or to dissipate energy. And so it's how do you handle your own energy within yourself so that when you're walking around, you're not striking at somebody with something. It's more, if you decide you want to join your energies to let it exchange, that's one thing, but it's not a take and it's not a project. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I endeavor to not be an individual that hides.
Mm-hmm.
So when a conversation comes up and whether I'm part of it or not, and something draws me in, and someone says, well, let's hear what you have to say, and like a lot of people would do, and I've done, is to go, oh, no, and you try to hide, you try to get away and whatnot. Now I don't believe I can be afforded that option anymore if I'm putting myself out with a pledge like that.
Right. That's right.
It says you can't ring a bell and then run away.
Right.
And I
No
don't.
ding dong ditch.
Yeah.
That's right.
So now it's time to be available.
Yeah.
In whatever form that is. That doesn't mean that people get to dictate to me.
Right.
It just means that I'm going to make myself available for those type of endeavors, the conversations, the examples, the light shining, the way showing. I don't have all the answers. I don't claim to be perfect in any of these things, but I do take the responsibility to make a pledge and to step out there and say, I'm willing to stand naked in the possibility of looking ignorant for the possibility of growth.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful.
That's my hammer.
That's your mic drop. Oh my. Excellent. Well,
yes.
the envelopes getting complete. Did you have anything else, Jenny, that you wanted?
No, that sounds really good. I love it.
Yeah, I'm feeling a closure.
Yeah. Thanks for your energy, because
yeah.
I'll tell you what, that was probably the hardest list I've had to put together. Not that the stuff wasn't coming. It was all over the place. I was the weakest link. I was the bottleneck. And I recognized it. And I said, please have patience with me. I'm trying. So, and my higher self knew I was, but these were coming in. And that's why I wrote the original pledge to say, here's what came in. I have all the intent. And so here's some of the words. But then I took something told me, you're not done yet. And I'm like, oh, I wrote the pledge. It says, let's do a version where you relax and you don't worry.
Soften it up a little bit.
Don't worry about time, and you just conjure your own, word magic.
I could feel energetically the difference between the first one was like a,
Raw.
it was, and the second one had that's where the heart, that's when it flooded my heart. I could feel it in the second reading that you did. Yeah. And
I didn't know when I was writing it. I'm like, but I already, okay. That sounds good. I knew the energy was there. I knew something was there. And I said, okay, but how many times have I written this section and then rewrote it and read both of them?
Yeah, you haven't ever, I don't
think. But I trusted my higher self. I didn't know at the time why.
Yeah, that was very interesting because I felt the energy in the first one. I even said, oh, let me bathe in that for a minute so I could feel the energy of it. But that second one had it was like a...
And there's both the same intent behind them.
Yeah.
I had the same intent writing the second one as I did with the first one. I just relaxed. I trusted. I had belief that there is
we're going to miss something.
that there was a higher purpose for this.
Yeah.
and that this was for the higher good.
Mm-hmm.
Just go with it. And
Yeah.
and it resonated with me. And so I said, okay,
Yeah. There was a, yeah. Yeah, that's interesting.
I guess we weren't done.
No, I guess not. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know how much of this I'm going to write up. I'll write up some of it. I'll see it's a lot again.
Yeah.
And last time I read word count cut me off, and so I had to go through and eliminate the words to come sail away and the one about down days or not down.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I had to eliminate from the last list because of the word count.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because I was over by like more than 1,500 words over. Yeah, so I don't think again this would be more than exceed.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, you have to summarize or pick out excerpts.
Yeah, so I'll see what resonates with me on. I'll definitely put the pledge in there, both pledges in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
excellent.
All righty.
Awesome. Well, hold on just a second. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.